Welcome once again to Going Beyond, and it's really great that you could join us here on the program. Another very special person who's right here with me in our studio is Richard O'Connor. Now, Richard is a government officer. He works in the Customs Department, but truly I believe that his first love is the other thing that he manages to do very, very successfully and very well indeed. He writes scripts, he does documentary work, and he's an extremely good presenter on all of these documentaries. So Richard, thank you so much for coming in here today. I'm so happy that you could join us.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me over.
Right. So now I know that you're in the government and that must be a pretty taxing kind of job, but what about the other things that you do? I want you to talk to me about that. Where did that interest start?
Well, I've always been interested in reading, writing, and understanding people and cultures, and this has been there from a very early age, and it's only logical that I take this forward besides the regular 9-to-5 job that I do.
Right. I know that you do also a considerable amount of writing as well, and I've read a lot of your work, a lot of your articles, which are also very nice. But you didn't study journalism or anything like that at college and at school, did you?
Yeah, not at all, not at all. In fact, one does not really need to study any subject to excel in that,
Mm-hmm.
And we have any number of cases where people do something they are passionate about.
Right.
And I've always liked, reading books, and perhaps to write well is only an extension of your reading habit. Once you read a lot, and then you get to understand the nuances of phrases and the meaning of, as they say, read between the lines, and then you take your dictionary at a very early age. What's the meaning of this? And then even without taking the dictionary, when you keep reading phrases over and over again, in certain contexts, you tend to understand, and
Right.
the knowledge of one's language improves.
Right.
So,
You're also a great speaker, because I've seen you on screen. I've seen some of the work that you do. I'm just wondering if really, as I said, this is your first love rather than the government 9-to-5 job that you're involved with.
yes, I'm an Anglo-Indian, and in our community terms, you could say that I have the gift of the gab in many ways. And yes, I have been doing a lot of work, on the Anglo-Indian community, that kind of aroused my interest. But at a very later age, so the first early years of your life, you want to settle in your career, and I was just like anybody else, trying to get your humdrum stuff in life done.
Get the paycheck done, really, basically,
yeah,
right? Isn't it that what it is?
You could call it that.
Yeah.
And then at your workplace, you tend to meet different types of people, which is wonderful. And then you realize that everyone organizes themselves on some lines or the other. So then you begin to think, okay, so what's my background? I hail from this community. It would be nice to know about it. Then I started reading about the community and interacting with people. And that's how the interest got started.
But
really.
it's not only community based issues that you have dabbled in. So what's the other areas? Have you kind of stretched yourself out of this somewhat narrow prism, if that's what I can call it, Richard?
I'm yet to stretch myself out fully, but I do enjoy, handling events, emceeing events, doing flow coordination and meeting different people, and in my workplace, for example, they often call upon me to put an event together, and sometimes, as for example today's interview, you get to go there at the very 11th hour, at the last minute, and then you put the whole thing together, and it doesn't take much. You've got to know who's speaking and what flows from that, and it goes down well.
I think that this is probably an inborn skill, really, Richard, as we're talking about it. I don't believe that you could actually be trained to do this well. I mean, to have an inquiring mind, an inquisitive mind, and to actually have the flow of the language, I think that's something that's either in you or it isn't. I don't know if you agree with me on that.
Totally. one has to really have interest in what they do, and if you do it systematically and with great love for your art, you know, I'm sure you will excel in that.
Right. I think at the end of the day, we are all talking about this word that we hear of all the time, passion, passion for what you do. So, Richard O'Connor, tell me, do you ever see yourself throwing in the towel and doing this kind of thing that you obviously love, doing it full time at some point of time? I'm not even talking about right now, perhaps 2, 3 years, 5 years down the road?
Yes, certainly, certainly. I wouldn't like to, you know, waste a good many years in doing, you know, a regular 9 to 5 kind of job. And sooner rather than later, I hope to actually get down and doing something creative, you know, for the community and society at large.
Right. When you say that, doing something creative, I need to draw you out and ask you, what do you mean by that? Are you talking about, is there a book inside you? Is there a film? Is there a movie? Are there documentaries? What exactly?
Well, actually, I am presently working on a documentary on the Anglo-Indian community. And I've basically been on a little journey going to various hubs of the community, Palavaram, St. Thomas Mount, Georgetown, Santhome, and really placing the history, the heritage, the culture of the community on record. Because
you think that's important, Richard?
It is very important, because relative to the past, we are quite a
minuscule, really.
Really. And it's important to document that, you know. It's
so I'm sorry,
yeah, it's one thing to have meetings and welfare programs, but at the end of the day, you know, our grandchildren or posterity would like to know what was our community like in the past, and it's very imperative to do that.
It's nice for anybody, I think, to know their roots and to know their background. So do you think that this is a nice thing to have all communities document their own history, so that not just the members of that community, but there are other people who might also want to know what was this community all about?
It's very important. See, I look at India as a rainbow nation, but yet if you look at a rainbow, every color is distinct.
Yes,
you know?
indeed.
It doesn't get lost. So every community is important. And you know, I remember a few years back, I was at T Nagar, the bustling T Nagar, and suddenly there was this lovely chant or lovely song playing. So I was on a bike and I stopped the bike and I entered that shop. It was the old cassette shop, you know, and there this was the Gayatri mantra was playing, you know, a very prominent singer, I can't get the name. But then I was astounded, wow, wonderful. I picked up that cassette and listened. So here you are, you know, every community has got something rich going, and it's important that that is, you know, that is documented, projected,
and preserved, I would imagine, more than anything else.
I had a friend who, you know, is documenting Carnatic music for so many years, and it's wonderful, really, and it's important that these things are preserved, Jenifer.
Right. I can see that you have a wonderful interest in everything that is going on around you, Richard. So I'm just wondering, in terms of other activities relating to different communities, have you ventured out into anything else apart from your own our own community?
Well, I've been interested in the neighborhood, really, and there have been little projects to, you know, like for example, how does one handle the garbage in one's locality. So I've been part of this group which says that you know, we have got to segregate the garbage, you know, into hazardous, into plastic, into food, organic, etc. So I've been helping the neighborhood do this.
Right.
So
Richard, I'm going to interrupt you here. Time for us to go for a very short break here on Going Beyond, but we'll be right back with you. Please don't go anywhere.